You're listening to the Nerd to Know Media Network. Join us at nerdtoknowmedia.com.
Broadcasting from the Blanchardstown Centre, this is Phoenix FM.
This is 92.5 Phoenix FM, community radio for Dublin 15.
Hey everybody, it's JB Jeremy Borash, and you are listening to Darrow O'Connor on the...
Welcome to the Wrestling Rewind, the only wrestling podcast by fans who don't hate wrestling.
Alright everybody, it is Tuesday here on Phoenix 92.5 FM. If you're checking us out anywhere else, welcome. This is the Pro Wrestling Rewind, show 72. My name is Darrow O'Connor, and welcome to the show. Martin, how the hell are you doing, sir?
Just phenomenal. It is All Out week. If I was any happier, it would be a mental illness.
Well, look, you know, if you're listening to this on Tuesday, you're like, why aren't you on talk about All Out? We are, but we are recording this on Friday night, as we do every single week. So if you want to check that out live or a little bit early, go over to Nerd to Know Media and check us out there, because that's how you're going to be able to do it, ladies and gentlemen. But if you're checking us out on Phoenix FM, we do appreciate it. We will be doing a preview of All Out, and oh my god, that is a long, massive card.
It's a card and a half.
Absolutely. So we will be getting to that at the end of the show, but we are going to review something that Martin and I really enjoyed, man. I thought it was great. WCW Spring Stampede 1999. Oh my god. Look, again, I haven't really watched these shows since I was a kid. I haven't really gone back and watched some of them. And WWE propaganda is like a thing, man, because you think 1999 WCW is terrible. It really isn't. In fact, it's the opposite of terrible. It's actually really good. And this is probably one of the best shows. This is probably the best show we've seen so far on this run. And yeah, like every single match, well, not every match was great, but every match had something I liked. Most matches I really liked, and it had just, you know, even the dud, which was Conan and Disco Inferno, was still pretty good. So look, Martin, opening thoughts on this. What did you think? What was your favourite moments, or what stood out for you?
Well, I mean, firstly, I couldn't agree with you more. I sat watching this, as I have done with all the WCW pay-per-views we've watched, just waiting for it to
get bad.
Shite. Yeah. And I sat, and the first match was class, the second match was class, and I kept waiting, like, when is this going to get done? And it didn't. I can't agree with you. I think this is the best of the WCW pay-per-views we've watched, but not just like the best of the ones we've watched as if that's a low bar. This was just an objectively good pay-per-view. Yeah. I would happily watch this. This was better than SummerSlam.
Oh man, that was the worst. SummerSlam is one of the worst things I've ever seen. You know, there should be like hearings about it, you know? Or what did he call them in Ireland? Inquiries. Should be inquiries.
Yeah.
What happened? Why was it so bad? I don't know. Like, here's the thing, man, right? Like, this show we have done 1999 WWE, right? And obviously the folks can go back and listen to that. We haven't done them full runs. We probably will have to go back and fill those gaps in. But it's so weird, because when you go back and think about 1999, you're like, oh, sure, wasn't WCW terrible? And it's not.
It's not.
Genuinely not. Like, now,
bits of it are. Like,
the
Flair Hogan cage match, bits of it were baffling. Not necessarily bad, but baffling. And that's kind of a thread the whole way through WCW. Like, sometimes you're just sitting there going, what the hell? I don't understand. But it is absolutely not like the shitstorm that WWE makes it out to be.
No,
or that
definitely not.
People thinking back to it. Now, I've absolutely no doubt that 2000 WCW is every bit as bad as I remember. But 98, 99, this is still a pretty hot company. Like, these crowds are popping. They are going off for everything.
You can also see the difference as well. Like, you can see that these are very, very, very different products. You know, like the way they're presented, the way the matches flow, the working style, all that kind of good stuff is there, and it's like almost welded into the fabric of the show. And it's weird because you're watching WCW and you're like, oh wow, this is really AEW. You know, you're getting kind of flashes to it, and you're like, this is AEW. You know, but
I gotta tell you,
way.
And I don't want to interrupt you, but it's just the fact that you said that during the Benoit Malenko Raven Perry match, I was going, this could be a Dynamite main event. This is literally brilliant.
That's what I thought too. That is exactly what I thought too. Yeah, I was just like, wow, they like, and look, I say that as a credit to AEW. I'm like, if they're modern WCW, fine, they've earned it. It works. It really works. And here it is working again. Like, you know, you will have to say that, like, the main event, and I will be honest, the main event of this pay-per-view, I couldn't stomach the first time around because Hogan showed up, and I'm like, oh, and then Flair showed up, and I'm like, oh, so I was just like, no, I have to watch it again. But
I was actually,
I can watch it.
Yeah. I mean, okay, I won't interrupt because we'll get to the main event.
We will get to the main event. Yeah, no, we will. Like, there's a lot to it. Again, it's we can't emphasize this enough for people who only watch modern WWE or indeed Dynamite or anyone who just watches the modern product and doesn't watch the spills. I would say, look, guys, if you're listening to this show, one, we appreciate it. We really do. We love you guys, right? And we know you listen because the numbers are brilliant, right?
I only like you as friends.
That's fair. Martin's still in the getting to know you phase. That's okay.
I need to be wooed.
But me and Dave love you, so that's the main thing. You know, we appreciate everyone who listens to the show. The thing about it is, if you're only listening to the show, you're kind of giving yourself half a service here. Do watch this show, because you'll pick up instantly how different this is, and like why when people say stuff like, Jesus, 4 hours is too much, or Jesus, a 3-hour show is terrible, or anything like that, that is like a common complaint about the modern product. It's not saying because it's a hip thing to say. It's saying because it's true. This show zips along so fast that you're like, that was brilliant. You know, and you're like, you're not leaving it going, oh, you know, I could watch some more. You're like, no, that was enough. I want to go off and do something else.
It's one thing that actually has me slightly torn about All Out and about AEW pay-per-views in general, in that because they only have 4 of them a year, I get why they're big events. I get why they're 4 hours long.
Yeah.
And I kind of want them to be, because it's such a big event, you know, like if I'm taking Monday off, you know, I want
it to be worthwhile.
I want it to be because it's a big thing. But at the same time, if it's not really good, 3 hours in, that's hitting you, you know.
But listen, right, AEW All Out is their biggest show of the year, right? 4 hours makes sense. 3-hour Raw makes no sense. A 4-hour a 4-hour Money in the Bank or something makes no sense. Even a 5-hour. Remember when WrestleMania was 9 hours one year?
Madness, yeah.
And it was like, why was that 9 hours? Oh man, it was just like, this has been going on for days. This is absolutely hell, like, you know.
But you kill the crowd. Like,
oh yeah.
When Becky Lynch won the 2 world titles, I mean, that should have been, the roof should have come off that place, but it didn't, because everyone was dead.
Banjaxed.
Was
absolutely banjaxed.
They've been there since 7:30 that morning. You know?
And look, no matter how, like, unless you're going to like ferry different crowds in and out, which, you know, to be fair, there is something for 2 nights, and that's probably a good thing to do. Now, I don't think it's so much with AEW, because AEW like know that and are aware of it. And to be fair, yeah, the card is big, but that will kind of be, that won't be like random nonsense. It will all be relatively tight and fast and zip along. And that's exactly what they're taking from WCW. Because WCW stuff, yeah, it has like cool down matches, but the cool down matches are either there to help set up what's going on or to further a storyline or something like that, or else they're literally just like, all right, go out and earn a paycheck.
4 or 5 minutes long.
Yeah, you know, because they don't have a women's division, and that is so instead of having a women, well, because of the way they use their cruiserweights, and the cruiserweights are used as a legitimate division, they don't have a P break, right? And in WWE, their P break would be something horrible that they do to the women's division, right? Which is what they did.
Brand
WCW
panties in a mud pit.
in a mud pit or whatever, or some other abhorrent thing. They don't have
women's degradation match.
Literally, that was it, man. Stuff we can't even repeat on radio. King alone.
Slightly hypocritical saying it now, because when I was 14 years old and it was happening, I was well into that.
Well, there you go. Different times, man. But as I said, it was a pee break for a lot of people, and it would break up the show. WCW, instead of hiring a bunch of women to do that, they just have decent jobbers who go out and have jobber matches, and that's it. And it's fine. Look, to be fair, I'm not a fan of Disco Inferno, but I didn't dislike seeing Disco Inferno. I'm not a fan of Mikey Whipwreck. I didn't dislike seeing Mikey Whipwreck because he was only there for a cup of coffee. That was it.
Short run, but man, I gotta say, this match, and he was on the last pay-per-view we reviewed. Both times, I mean, his whole shtick in ECW was that he was useless and he would just get bet up, and he was basically there to be ragdolled by the bigger guys. The dude can wrestle.
Yep, he actually, and I think it's funny. We'll get into that as well as we're going through the card, because anytime I do see the ECW guys show up, I'm like, oh wow, you guys can actually go, and you can do stuff beyond just I'm in a bingo hall. So it's different. But let's get into this, right? So obviously Tony Schiavone, Bobby the Brain Heenan, and Mike Tenay. I think this is fastly because I knew I always loved Tony Schiavone, but I think this is becoming my favorite booth.
Oh, great table.
I love Tony Schiavone in general as a commentator. Mike Tenay is also one of my favorite commentators. I can do without Bobby the Brain Heenan, but I do appreciate him as well. I do think he's kind of funny when he's funny, except when he's degrading the smaller talent, going, "Oh, I don't watch Thunder." It's you don't need to say that. Stop saying that. Stop saying that. You're burying the lads in the ring. Come on.
I noticed that. But at the same time, that kind of just fits in with his.
It does.
His whole gimmick. But I get what you're saying. Yeah, it's you're brought on here to commentate and to big everything up. But
see, I think if he had it works because that's his persona, and he's obviously the heel, right? And Mike Tenay is the straight man, basically the information, and Tony Schiavone is a mix between the two.
It also works because of the time. At the time, Nitro was drawn 5-6 million people a week. So they could denigrate their second show. They could talk shit about fans. They didn't care. They had 6 million people tuning every week.
But I will say is, it's something that AEW, and this is not going to be a comparison show, but AEW does do it quite well, except for Taz. Taz needs to stop being a commentary. But other than that, I do like it. I think it's just it's the DNA of the companies are the same. And they just get it. When WWE do a 3-man booth, it's the worst thing in the world. You're like, what is going on? Please shut up. Just one of you talk. That's it. You only need one person, and it's your man from SmackDown, the new fella, your man. Can't remember his name.
I don't even know, because I do not watch either Raw or SmackDown. I can't. The guy
who's on SmackDown is the color commentator. His first night was the night I was in the Thunderdome, and he's great. I like him a lot, but he's the only one I can actually listen to for more than 5 minutes and not just want to jump off a very high building. Anyway, so look, this was in April the 11th, 1999. So many a year ago, my friend, because we're getting old. This was in Tomacoma, Washington, and I will have to say the actual poster's a bit lame. But that's okay.
And the set, okay. I was slightly disappointed that there wasn't much of a set either.
I have to say, right, the set was lame, but I really appreciated how it was used in the hardcore match. So I'm not going to hate on it too much, because I enjoyed it in the hardcore match. And we'll get to it, because that was a wonderful 11 minutes. But let's start off with a fantastic cruiserweight match. Again, as part of the course with WCW, let's start off with a hot cruiserweight with lads jumping around doing the flips and doing the big spots. Juventud Guerrera defeated Blitzkrieg in 11 minutes and 11 seconds. Phenomenal match. Amazing finish as well. Holy hell! After that that move off the top rope to finish the match was terrifying, but excellent.
The whole match had several spots that were just absolutely insane. Blitzkrieg has long been one of my favorite cruiserweights.
Yes.
I think that's partly down to the fact that he's objectively excellent, but also partly down to the fact that the only bit of WCW I used to get to see when I was younger was when I would like coincidentally visit my auntie on a Friday night because she happened to have Sky. We're like, oh how are you, Bree? And then I go and sit and watch Thunder.
That's gas.
Blitzkrieg used to be into that, but this was just fantastic. The only thing was that they did a sliced bread, like a backwards suplex thing.
Yeah.
And that was almost disastrous. Like very, very nearly botched that really, really badly. But the whole match, the pace was excellent. The spots were amazing. There was a top rope drop kick that was insane.
That was unreal. That was actually class.
Oh,
I really like. I really like the Hooven 2 looks kind of weird when he's not in the ring with someone not as flamboyantly dressed as him. So I did appreciate Blitzkrieg's get up because I'm like, this is cool. To me, this makes sense. It's like this is what they should be wrestling in. Because when you see it's like Mysterio, he looked. We'll get into it with Billy Kidman. They kind of fit more. You're like, oh, okay, in my head now, this is the flippy stuff, and they're going out to have this, not like Mexican style match, but a cruiserweight that kind of brings in all that like heavyweight stuff. I don't know. It just made more sense. I think they should dress them up like Power Rangers and send them out because it's like that's what they're doing. Yeah,
and I tell you got to give it to Blitzkrieg as well because I think he was, despite his obviously incredible ability as a high flyer, I think because he was working as the heel, he, at least in the early part of the match, he grounded his wrestling more. Because he could have bounced around and got over, but he kept it pretty grounded until it built to the crescendo. The other thing I got to say about Blitzkrieg is, I mean, it takes skill to get over when your name is the code for a Nazi German war technique. That's like if you had like if you had an English wrestler whose name was Bloody Sunday. That's some heat.
Oh, I suppose it depends on the audience. We had there was a German wrestler, can't remember his name now. Gone now, but it was similar. It was a similar kind of thing, and his whole gimmick was like being German, German American, and I don't know. It's just they seem to flirt with this a lot more in WCW than WWE. They're like, okay, yeah, you can be called that. Okay, fine. It made more sense. But if someone came out to WWE with the name Blitzkrieg, I'd be like, oh, oof, yikes.
Yeah. But if someone came out with the name like Lebensraum,
yeah, you'd be like, all right, fair enough, that makes sense. But in WWE, you'd be like, oh, I don't know what it is. It's just, I think with WCW, you're just like, makes sense. You just sit there going, maybe.
I think it was just maybe it was the 90s and nobody cared. Although you got to say, TNA to this day have a guy called Suicide, so
Well, see, that's the thing again. It's I think it's just when WWE would never do anything like that. They would do something more sexual or grotesque in that sense. But as far as politics, they would usually just kind of step away for the most part. With WCW, it's like, well, yeah, you're coming from Japan or you're coming from Mexico or whatever. It's like, okay, fair enough. I think it's just that thing where you're like, they're not owned by WCW. They're just kind of roaming in. So you're like, all right. And I always got that with TNA as well. But Suicide is different because he's literally a TNA creation. So you're like, oh. But that music though, dude.
Are you suggesting that if Suicide joined WWE, he'd be called autoerotic asphyxiation?
No, when he joined, he was PJ, whatever his name was.
Oh, I didn't
video
even
game
know.
guy. Yeah, he was in WWE as the video game guy. PJ, whatever, can't remember his name is. But with the Suicide music is amazing though from TNA. Come on,
yeah, it's brilliant.
Unreal. It's just such a poorly thought out like gimmick.
I don't even think it is. I think it's personally, I think it's great. I have no issue with it. Like the guy, if that's his style of wrestling, like he has no consideration for himself. I just think that it strikes me as the type of thing other people might have an issue with, you know.
And they did, and that's why they changed it to what was it, to panic or manic? It was something stupid, and then they went back to suicide because it's like
self-harm.
So, oh Jesus. Anyway, so fair play to Juventud Guerrero. He picked up the win in 11 minutes and 11 seconds
with a brilliant finish.
Oh man, the finish of this was like, I don't know, being in the locker room after these shows. You know, I don't know how they just weren't like, I have to follow that. Holy
well,
crap.
Do you know what? I actually think that's why they have this down so well, because the next match is Sandman and Bam Bam.
Yes.
And they don't really have to follow it because it's an entirely different style of wrestling.
That's a fair point, actually. Yeah. The way they have this, and even then, the next kind of flippy match isn't for like, is further down the card. And then there's a technical,
like 2-3 matches away.
And then there's a technical wonderland in the middle of it as well. But that's a good point. But look, you know, Bam Bam and Hack, I love myself a hardcore match like this. I love these absolute garbage wrestling that nobody really bleeds in and there isn't glass. But they all go through stuff and hit themselves with like random things. And I thought this was great. I think Sandman, I wasn't like, I liked him, but I wasn't really like enamored by him. But Hack, hardcore Hack, man, I love this guy. I think he's great. And having Chastity there with him as his floozy, it's brilliant. She's off there getting him weapons and brilliant, man. Like, and here's the thing, right? We were talking about the set. The set was used so much in this, and Hack's out there doing Jeff Hardy moves before Jeff Hardy was doing them. You know, jumping off the top of things and using tables, and it's like, oh man, this is so ahead of its time. You know, it is.
When he pulls out the table from underneath the stagecoach, that was fantastic.
So I said a controversial statement. Let's set the historical narrative. When was the first ladder match that changed the way ladder matches were done in WWE? Do you know what month in 1999?
Well, it depends what you mean. So I'd like to take this opportunity to right an historical wrong. The first ladder match in WWE was not Shawn Michaels and Razor Ramon.
Yes.
It was Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels, because Bret had taken it down from Stampede Wrestling.
That is true. But the match that changed the way ladder matches were done was the final of the Terry Invitational Tournament. Yes, we all know what that spells. Clever WWE, clever. That's what it was done. That's what it was done.
I don't mean to interrupt, but very quickly, because of the Terry Invitational Tournament, I was doing an election tour once of the Ireland South constituency, which is 12 counties, and we went round all the technical colleges. And we went to, Kerry Institute of Technology, and the where else were we? Were the Cork Institute of Technology and the Wicklow Institute of Technology, and I could not wait until we got the Tralee Institute of Technology, because I wanted to get a picture of myself outside TIT, and it's Institute Technology Tralee. I was so bloody annoyed.
See, they were aware of what happened. I think it was TIT at one point, and they changed it. But yeah, man, that's hilarious. But so that's credit, and that happened in October 1999. So no mercy. WCW were ahead of them. This was like a Hardy Boy match. This was a Jeff Hardy match.
Oh, brilliant!
You know, and look, I was shocked the Hack can go so well. It's like, where was this the whole time? What were you doing? You know, and it just shows you that, like, when you take them out of the bingo hall, or you take them out of WWE who don't really know how to do them, you're just like, it's like, oh wow, this is great. You know, and it really says a lot, because it's like, should Bam Bam and Hack have been bigger than they were? You know, and I think they could have, because like this obviously
Bam definitely.
Well, look, this obviously isn't for everyone, but the hardcore style was being done in WWE at the same time with the, you know, Al Snow and the Big Boss Man and all that kind of stuff. That was the feud that would be like directly parallel to this.
Yeah.
And I don't know, man. Like, it just the Hack Bam Bam feud seems to have more of a big fight feel than a joke, even though they do some stupid stuff in it.
it definitely wasn't a joke, and I really enjoyed it. But I think part of the reason I enjoyed it was that WCW tended to keep these to 10 minutes or so.
Yes.
And I mean, it's such a weird balancing act in my head, because on the one hand, part of the reason it was so good is because they had a proper, real good worker like Bam Bam in there. But also, I'm looking at that going, oh man, Bam Bam deserves better.
But dude, there were some great spots in this as well. Like and I don't think the match would have been as good. That's the thing with WWE. When they did the hardcore division, it was great, but you wouldn't really say, "Oh, there's amazing matches." Like there's the spot with the guardrail, where he puts the guardrail over, and you're like, "Oh, that's it. That's like proper ECW, sick match psychology." It just adds that like extra level of legitimacy that just wasn't in the hardcore division until 2001, when all these lads kind of came into the WWE, but it was a bit of a joke. I think like the best example of this is like when Raven came into the hardcore division, and it just kind of went, whoop, okay, we are going into a whole new thing here, and Raven's run with the hardcore belt is probably the best one. But Taker's one's pretty good too. But here, Bam Bam and Hack has the same kind of dynamic as that really famous Jeff Hardy Undertaker match.
Like again, when I say Bam Bam deserves better, I mean that's not to denigrate this match. This match was brilliant. Like,
oh, absolutely, yeah.
They knew what they had to do. They had 10 minutes to go out there and create havoc, and they bloody did it. I think maybe I'm just sitting here remembering Bam Bam from the early 90s.
Yeah.
With Bret Hart and King of the Ring, and I'm just thinking, man, that guy can do so much more. But again, that is not to say that this was anything less than, come on, a fantastic second match. Like, we're 2 matches into a 1999 WCW pay-per-view, and I'm bouncing.
Yep. Oh man, it was great, and like the crowd loved everything that was happening here. They really did. They were super into it. Like, and then the next 2 matches really are kind of like cool down to bring everybody down again, and which they did. It wasn't like they're not bad matches. Scott Riggs defeated Mikey Whipwreck in about 7 minutes, and Conan defeated Disco Inferno in actually a pretty decent 9 minutes. But again, the whole point of those matches was to just like, right, go to the toilet, get some food, come back, be grand. And that's what a couple of beers, come back, and then get ready for things to really ramp up, because after Disco and Conan leave the ring, the show keeps going, and it goes hard until the end.
Bump.
So, do you have anything to say about the 2 matches? Because I really don't, other than what I've said. But go for it.
Yeah, I mean, like yourself, a very short note here. Just that Mickey Whipwreck, what a solid wrestler, man. Like,
absolutely.
Really, like,
really dab hand.
And I knew when I was watching it that this is, like you say, this is a Pittsburgh match. But man, I was really enjoying it. He's a real solid wrestler, and I really enjoyed that. Conan versus Disco, like you say, it was grand. It was a perfectly good Nitro or Thunder match. What I don't get is, like, we keep reviewing these major pay-per-views that happened in front of thousands of people and got huge buy rates, and Disco Inferno is on every single one of them, and I don't know how.
He must have just been mates, or he's just hanging out going, look, I have my gear, I'll go out and take the
he has footage of Hogan at a Clan rally or something. He must.
Well, look, man, here's the thing, right? If someone needs to take the L, right, and if Disco's hanging around and catering, he goes, look, I'll go out and I'll take the L. That's probably what it was. It's like, all right, look, Disco, go out there and get beaten, take the pinfall, And that's
and
what it was.
bloody over. Like, he comes out, he comes out and he does his dance, and the crowd goes nuts.
Yeah.
And I'm sat here baffled, but I'm going, well, I'm one Egypt against 20,000 people who are screaming. So,
well, look, and I said to you, look, the way they did it here, if these are the P breaks, it's a lot better than sending out 2 women who have no idea what they're doing to fall around for a little bit, which is what WWE would do and did do for about 10 years after this. So, I'm not going to sit here and criticize 2 pretty decent wrestlers. But again, kind of pointless, but it's either that or just take an intermission, and this was better than an intermission. So, that'd be my metric. But that said, right, did we go right back to full gear, full steam,
Full
right?
gear, all out, full gear,
All out.
all out, revolution.
That's it. A single match for the WCW Cruiserweight Championship. About 16 minutes of absolute, probably one of the best Rey Mysterio matches I've ever seen, right? And this was better than any of the stuff he did in WWE. It was fantastic. Rey Mysterio without a mask defeating Billy Kidman in what look, this was just a clinic of that style of wrestling. And I don't understand how people don't like Billy Kidman. I'm like, did you not see him work? He's amazing. And then with Rey Mysterio, I'm like, where was this Rey Mysterio? This was brilliant. Like there's so much going on here. Well, it wasn't just spot. They're friends, they're mates, they're tag team partners at this point as well. But also, Rey Mysterio, he beat Billy Kidman for the championship. And that was the story going into it as well. It's like, well, is he too overconfident? And throughout the whole match, he breaks out these new finishers that he never used or never used since. And he's like, oh, I can win with this. And he can't. And it's like, what does Rey Mysterio need to do? It was such a good match. But I will have to say, some criticism, I'll let you come in now in a second. The only criticism about this match is the absolute ending of it, where it's like, oh, it's over. That's my criticism. The ending was a bit flat.
Yeah, and I'd agree with that. I'd say the first thing I'd say is that it really shows how much WCW at this stage was beginning to think of the Cruiserweight title and the Cruiserweight division, that this was not an opener. This was the 5th match.
Yep.
This was after the 2 piss break matches. This was a seriously considered part of the show, and like you said, they gave them 16 minutes. That's a big chunk. You don't get that for a match that the company thinks nothing of.
And here's the thing as well, like, obviously we saw Ray lose his mask. I think he looks good, dude. I think he usually looks kind of weird. He's a weird looking dude. And I don't mean that disrespectfully. He looks really weird, but he looks weird because we don't see him without the mask. So when he doesn't have the mask on, it's like, this looks weird. But I have to say, the gear he was wearing and just the way he looked with, like, not all the tattoos, but just a few of them, actually looks deadly. Like, I think that's the best he ever looked as far as, like, presentation wise. I'm like, that's cool, man. He looked badass. But I don't know.
This is just, I stopped taking notes on the spots. This was just brilliant. So many.
Like, as I said, the finish was so disappointing, not because it was bad, but because there was so much good that happened in the match.
Sure. Yeah, and it deserved an explosive end. Well, one of the things I got to say about Kidman, and I completely agree, which is how, oh my God, WWE screwed that up so much when they didn't make him a bit. They had his contract and they did nothing with it. This dude is amazing, and it's not just the high flying, because loads of guys can do the high flying. But he does so many little things in his different moves that just add, like, the least realistic style of wrestling is the high flying lucha stuff.
But they take it seriously. That's what I'm saying to you.
He does so many little things that just make you go, oh, that looked legit. He was phenomenal. Like,
and that's a good point, because there's little things like in a match that you'd see that takes you out of it, punches or something like that. And in the high flying, it's kind of hard to be like, yeah, well, he sat there when you did it, a massive Tower of Doom spot or something, which is ridiculous. But with this, like, he would do stuff like he'd throw an elbow in or throw a punch or set up a springboard that doesn't look like it was set up. He just did it as offense, and you're like, that is awesome. And again, it's because they took this match, or they took this division, not as like a joke. Yeah. They're like, okay, they are cruiserweights, but they are having a main event. This is for the title, which is the most important title to that weight class. And that's what WWE did. They messed it up completely by making it a joke.
And the thing is, then, like, Kidman, he's now like a
trainer,
a coach or a trainer.
Yeah.
So clearly they recognized the level of skill he had. They just didn't want to push a WCW guy.
They didn't want to push a small guy.
Or a small guy, yeah, exactly.
Like, here's the thing. If Kidman was around today in his prime, at this point, guess where he'd be?
AEW.
That's where he'd be. He'd be
with Adam Cole.
Well, not only with Adam Cole, but even beforehand, he'd be there with Pac.
Well, we got to say,
he reminds me so much of Pac. It's unreal.
How like, and I think one of the hugest, possibly the biggest missed opportunity, apart from Bret Hart and WCW, in all of wrestling was the Invasion angle. And that Invasion pay-per-view, the best bloody match on that whole show was Billy Kidman and X-Pac.
RVD and Hardy was good too, to be fair. But there are they're close up there. But yeah, man. Like again, guys, if you're just listening to this, we appreciate it. Get the network, watch this show, or you know what? There's other ways to watch this show.
Don't
that
get
too.
the network. I ever since WWE fired 120 people last year in the middle of the pandemic, I shamelessly steal everything I can from them.
Theoretically, we do not condone this on the radio. He's obviously talking in hypothetical stealing.
Speaking for myself, in my prison in South Armagh, I steal it all, and you can come and get me.
Well, there we go. And there are ways to find it, obviously. But if you haven't seen this, folks, go out of your way to watch it. It is fantastic match. This whole show, it's totally worth your time. It's less than 3 hours. It will zip across. It's a great time. And look, we're only halfway through it. We have 4 really good matches to go through, and already it's we're giving it probably an A at this point. But look, a match that according to Network doesn't happen is it just doesn't appear. Chris Benoit and Dean Malenko defeated Raven and Perry Saturn in a 14-minute absolute tag team wrestling clinic. Again, as you said, man, you took the words right out of my mouth. This could be a main event of Dynamite now, and it would be like match of the year candidate. Oh man,
match of the show.
Yeah,
match of all the WCW shows we've done. Probably match of 1999. Everything about this was just phenomenal. And like, part of the reason I keep saying that it could be a Dynamite main event is because AEW treats tag team wrestling as a serious endeavor.
And you can tell Shivani loved this too, because he actually mentions that he's like, tag team wrestling is back. And you're like, well, with that it is. You know, you have Benoit and Malenko, who are brilliant on their own, brilliant as part of the Horsemen. But then you also have Raven and Perry Saturn, who I didn't think were that good of a tag team, but holy hell, Raven's out there putting in absolute Trojan work.
Raven's out there
phenomenal.
battering. Saturn's out there jumping off the top rope through a table to the outside.
Wild. What a spot.
Benoit is doing a diving headbutt into a chair.
Oh, man.
Shouldn't have done.
There's a great spot there when they were going to the finish and Benoit did the headbutt to break up the pin. And I'm like, I haven't seen that in a while.
But you know what I thought when I was watching Benoit and Malenko? Do you know all that I thought the whole time I was watching them?
What?
FTR.
Really?
FTR. Everything they did reminded me of FTR.
But then again, that makes sense. That makes perfect sense. You know, as I said, as you said, and then I agree with you because you literally read my mind. This is AEW. Like, this is exactly AEW. To a T. It looks like AEW, feels like AEW. No, obviously the guys in there are probably the 4 of them, from whatever happened outside the ring or whatever, probably the 4 best wrestlers ever in their own way.
Raven
on a click.
Raven for me, in terms of promos and stuff like that, he's up there with Jake the Snake. Like
man, Raven's. I love Raven.
When he was let do his own thing, he was brilliant. But like,
even as a wrestler though, like as a wrestler himself, being under, people forget that he is just a phenomenal wrestler.
Oh yeah, he wasn't like out of his depth here or anything.
No,
he was brilliant.
Yeah.
He was a key part of this match. Everything. What I loved was that they could do brilliant, like a tag team
set pieces
and different things. But also, what really made it was when they would come in for a punch and elbow, man, they would lay it in.
But also as well, you got the sense that they weren't trying to just do their moves and then leave. They're like, no, we're a team. We're going to work as a team. And if you come to the corner, we're going to batter you. Do a set piece and then leave. But still, we're trying to win as a team, not just like, again, WWE. Let's say, okay, if they were booking this, right? If they were to book this, Cena and Orton would be a tag team, and they'd go against Edge and I don't know, Roman Reigns or something, right?
R-Truth.
Or whoever, right? They would the whole match would then be doing their spots, tag out, spots, tag out, spots, tag out, pin. That's it.
Yeah.
What's the point in that? Like, that's just a time waste. And I think this was brilliant.
This was brilliant. Do you know? Maybe it was only because like I actually watched it 2 hours prior to this, but on Dynamite this week they had FTR versus Proud and Powerful, and it reminded me of this. But look, I don't know how much time we have. All I can say is that this was the match of the night. This was the match of all the WCW pay-per-views we've done, and this is honestly one of the best matches I've seen in a long time. Absolutely love this.
I would agree on that. Like I would say, if you're not sold already, what we said, that match will change your opinion. Totally watch it. It was followed up by a pretty decent Scott Steiner Booker T match for the vacant WCW United States Heavyweight Championship. Scott Steiner picking up the win in cheap fashion. The match was really good, but Scott managed to just win as the biggest heel as he is. And poor Booker got battered as a result, but I enjoyed this match. It was super fun. It was a lot better than the match that followed it, but it was really good.
Oh, this is what Scott does. Like, so if you just take the bell to bell, the match, this is a good match. Decent match. Decent match,
exactly, yeah.
But when you take in all just the big Papa Pump nonsense, this was fantastic.
He's just being Scott Steiner as like the ultimate heel. It's wonderful. He's wonderful.
Excellent. He's out there. I mean, talk about working the crowd. He is working the crowd. He is out leaping over the railing, getting into the face of fans.
Everything he does.
Shit.
Everything.
Oh my! I have never, and I don't know what it was. Maybe I was being pretentious, but I've never liked him, or maybe I just liked the old Steiner brothers too much, and I never forgave him for breaking up them. But I've never liked Scott Steiner. But ever since we started doing this kind of retrospective of the LWCW pay-per-views, I think he's my new favorite wrestler. He's fantastic.
This is the thing, and this is the thing about TNA as well. He was wonderful in TNA as well. You know, it's like that's why we do this show. You know, we are the only wrestling podcast by people who don't hate wrestling because we're not stupid enough to watch current WWE. That's how you hate wrestling. You go back and you watch good stuff like we do, and man, I'm so happy to go back and watch Scott Steiner in his prime just do this stuff. It's brilliant. And Booker T is just a rookie here as well, and he's doing great work too.
I'll tell you what as well, like Steiner, right, the big Papa Pump thing, winds the crowd up. He's great. He obviously has the promo stuff down. He has the winding the crowd up stuff down. He got into the ring. He was doing some legit amateur moves in there that looked proper bloody vicious. Like, this is another great match.
Yep, it was.
It's WCW in 1999. We haven't had a bad match yet.
Nope. And I will say, like, the next match, it's a Goldberg match. Goldberg beats Kevin Nash. That's all I can say. It's a Goldberg match.
Yeah.
It's like every other Goldberg match you've seen, except for the bad ones.
Even for that, it actually went a wee bit longer than the usual Goldberg match does, and I was surprised. You know what? There was some counters, there was some wrestling, there was...
Well, Kevin Nash was out there and he was working today. So
yeah,
it was like, oh, grand, man, you're doing it. Go for it, you know? And I think
it was... The old Kevin Nash, the old leap where Goldberg went for the spear and Nash leapt over it. I mean, like, look, this is your typical, like you say, Goldberg match. It was a couple of minutes long. There was nothing mad about it. But it was longer than his usual matches.
Yes.
It was more intricate than his usual matches. It was never going to be Brett versus Owen. No. But again, this was decent.
They went out and tried. He went out and tried and actually delivered as well. And I said, yeah, I made a joke that it was your typical Goldberg match. But to be fair, when I was watching it, I did think that too, where I'm like, this was better than a normal Goldberg match. Like, again, you compare it to him and Bobby Lashley at SummerSlam. It was not that. It was not that. It was a lot better.
Although, it would have been a lot more interesting if Kevin Nash had choked out his son at that age. What would he have been? 9 months at that stage?
Oh man!
Maybe a jackknife on a toddler.
Maybe you would have been a better actor. But I do have to say the only down point for this was, for me, was the main event. I was happy DDP won because I love DDP. I hate Hogan. Flair really grates me. Sting was just there. I did like seeing Randy Savage. I thought that was cool. I was like, oh man, this is great. But I was kind of coming and going while I was preparing for the show, because I did watch it just before we did the show, the main event anyway. And I'm like, when you look away, you're like, that just looks weird seeing the five of them in the ring, like, because they're the old guard, and you're like, that just looks weird. It just looks strange, So
I can't hate on this main event.
That's
because
fair.
If you were to pull out an N64 and plug in WCW NWO Revenge and make yourself a main event, it would have Sting, Macho, DDP, Hogan, and Flair in it. And
fair.
I cannot complain about that. And I'll be honest with you, I know you have your issues with Hogan. Hogan was dropped out of it fairly early.
Yes.
And one thing that I really enjoyed, he was dropped out of it with an old Bret Hart move that nobody uses. And it why does nobody use the ring post figure 4? It looks amazing.
Yes.
It's easy to do.
But it was cool as well, because it obviously, like, WCW didn't do the whole medic thing that much. So to see it being done, I was like, oh, that's cool. So yeah, no, I agree. Look, there was a lot to like in this. I historically don't like the WCW main event scene, but I do like DDP. So the cool thing about this is we're going to start seeing a lot more DDP in the main event now, which is great. Okay, well, look,
I actually didn't know that DDP wins this, so when he did, I properly popped. I popped like I was watching Dynamite. I legit went up for it. Like,
man, that's
so I was buzzing.
Well, see, that's it again, guys. That's why we say, when we put up on the social media what show we're doing, please do watch it before we do it. Because look, with WCW, when you're watching WWE from back in the day, you kind of know what's going to happen. But with WCW, you really don't, because WWE have been so bad passing on the history of this stuff that it's like you're watching something completely brand new for the first time.
And here, just like Billy Kidman, how badly was DDP wasted in WWE? DDP, when you watch him in WCW, he is phenomenal. He's an exceptional wrestler.
Yeah. And you know what? The good thing about it is, though, at least on this show anyway, we'll be able to document that and watch it going forward, because that's the main thing. But look, we do have to get to All Out real quick. Quick letter grade on this, Martin. What would you give
it? B+, A-, somewhere in there.
I give that to A- anyway. Absolutely. That's if you haven't seen it, make it your business to watch it. Have a couple of cans, have a couple of drinks, or if you're under 18, have some Pepsi, and you'll have a good time.
If you're under 18, have a few naps. It'll be grand.
It'll be grand. All right, so real quick,
it never did me any harm.
So anyway, before we get out of here, man, All Out is happening. By the time the folks are listening to this, it has already happened. We'll be covering it on this show next week, so do join us Friday night. We'll be on live on Nerd to Know Media or thewrestlingrewind.com. Okay, Martin, let's quickly run through these picks. So opening up, 21 women casino battle royale for a women's title match. Who have you got?
Okay, so this is I think this is going to be more than the typical casino royale. Probably Anna Jay or maybe Ty Conti, because they kind of have stories going on. But my secret in my deepest heart of heart desires is that Maki Ito shows up.
Oh, that could happen.
Even if she shows up and gets thrown out, then the entire pay-per-view, 5 stars, A+.
Well, look, I don't know. I love Riho, so I want her. My heart wants her to win. But
who doesn't? Well, this is the thing. They actually have they have an incredible women's roster. They don't have an incredible women's division. I love AEW, but they just haven't got the formula right in the women's division.
They're aware of it, though. They're aware of it.
But they have an incredible roster.
Yeah.
And I know the Casino Royales typically aren't great, although they've changed the formula recently, so it doesn't have that weird thing where 5 people come out at once.
Yeah.
I have high hopes for this. I think this is going to be a great opener. I think it's going to be really good. And like you say, I'm not going to be annoyed if Riho wins, if Tai Conti wins, if Anna Jay wins, if Maki Ito wins. I'm not going to be annoyed. It's all good.
Mox and Kojima.
Brutality, absolute destruction. These two guys are not going out to prove themselves. They are going out as ambassadors of New Japan, and New Japan is no bullshit. New Japan is sport. It's not sports entertainment. New Japan is sport, and these two guys are going to go out to batter each other.
Gonna be a war, but you think Mox is gonna get the win?
Oh, undoubtedly.
Okay.
Undoubtedly.
I'd say so as well. Paul White, aka The Big Show, has gone against QT Marshall. Do not care about this match at all.
This is your Disco Inferno piss break.
Yeah. I can imagine White will probably win because this is his first match in the ring. But
do you know what? I'll be okay with this. If this goes 3 minutes, big punch, big choke slam, and then we don't see QT Marshall for a couple of weeks. And I don't say that in any hate for QT Marshall because I know he plays a really important backstage role.
Yes.
And he's actually a good babyface and a good heel. He doesn't inspire anything, So
Fair.
if Paul White chokeslams him out of his shoes and we don't see him for a couple of months, grand.
Chris Jericho, MJF. If Jericho loses, he must retire for in-ring competition. Jericho's not losing, but that promo that happened,
I don't know.
I don't know either.
I don't know. Like yourself, I was like, Jericho's never losing. And then I saw that promo and I was like, they are laying the groundwork here.
Yeah.
Now, here's the thing with Jericho. He's a chancer. So he could lose. And then he could go off and do a Fozzy tour and he could come back in a year.
Oh, that could happen. Okay, I'm changing my pick. MJF is winning because that's exactly what's going to happen because the pandemic's over. That's exactly what's happening.
He could go back in a year under a different name, or he could go.
There was a
loophole in the contract, or I don't know. But there's 2 matches in this card that I wasn't sure about. No, that I was sure about, and then the promos on Dynamite changed my mind. This is one of them, and this is what I love about wrestling. So wrestling, all it needs to do is to implant 1% of doubt in your mind. Just 1% of doubt.
I'm gonna put you on the spot. Who is it? Who's getting the win?
MJF.
Okay. I think you're right there. And it's because of the promo. Miro and Eddie Kingston.
This is the other match.
Oh, okay.
Miro was going to murder him. And this promo was amazing. It just made me think, oh, Eddie's going for that.
You know what? And I don't think that would be a loss either way because Miro has been great, but Eddie Kingston is probably his time. I'm going to go Eddie Kingston. I'm going to go Eddie Kingston on that.
I think Miro will retain, right?
Okay.
But I think down the line somewhere, Eddie Kingston is going to lift that TNT title, and the roof will come off. The roof will come off this building. If I'm sitting watching Eddie Kingston win a title, the roof will come off this bloody building, man. But that promo Eddie Kingston did was amazing. And Miro, so I don't know if you saw it, but Eddie was always like, oh, I've seen you and you're always dodging the DDT. You're always protecting your neck. I think your neck's your weak point and I'm going to go for your weak point. And then Miro come out and he said, the only person Miro lays down for is his sexy wife. And I'm just like, oh,
amazing.
I love both of you. I don't know who to root for.
Who do you think's winning between the Bucks and Lucha Brothers in the cage match?
Lucha.
Okay, I agree with that. I don't think the Bucks are getting it. Well, they already won the belt, so I think the Lucha guys need it.
Insane match.
Yep.
But the Luchas are too good of a tag team to not have won the titles yet.
I agree.
They got split up for ages, and they were kind of a little bit jobbed out for a while. I think this is it. I think the Lucha Brothers got to win this. And I think they'll be fantastic champions.
And then we got Britt Baker versus Chris Stanler. Britt Baker's not losing the belt. There's no way.
No way. She'd probably win by shenanigans.
Yeah, but there's no way to take the belt off. She's way too over. Yeah, she's way too over.
But that's not I know we're just going to skip over this, but that's not to diminish Chris Statlander, who is a phenomenal wrestler And before she got really badly hurt last year, she was really on the up and up. She was really doing well. And to be honest, since she's come back, I think she's better than ever.
That's fair. Speaking of someone who's not losing, Punk is not losing against Darby Allin. No, there's no way.
No, hold on.
No, there's no way.
His promo on Dynamite gave me that 1% of doubt.
No, man, I don't think he's. No, I don't think so. I think that what I will say is Darby will come close.
I can see a storyline where Darby beats Punk, and Punk's whole thing is like, oh, I thought I was going to come back into this and be myself of old, and now I gotta build myself back up. I gotta, do the old Christian Cage. I gotta outwork everyone.
Is this in Chicago though?
Oh God, yeah, they might.
Yeah, no, there's no way.
Burn the building down.
Yeah, no, there's no way. I'm sorry, man, no way. He's not losing. There's no way.
I'll tell you what, I mostly agree with you, but I have that 1% of doubt where I will bite on every near fall.
Fair, that's fair, and I think you'll get that as well. And so Omega's obviously beaten Christian Cage because Christian Cage is the Impact champion. Kenny Omega's not losing that belt, but I do have the 1% of doubt that Christian could do it, but I don't think he will.
The one thing I want to see from Christian, and he did this in TNA once, and like I said, I haven't been a big watcher of TNA. I've only seen this in highlights. It was one of the most phenomenal things I've ever seen. His finisher, the Unpretty or the Impaler, it used to be called. He did a phenomenal version of it where he was outside the ropes and he hit the guy, so he spun around, and then he basically vaulted over the top rope back into the ring and caught the guy. And I think if anyone is capable of doing that, it's Kenny Omega.
Yeah, it's like a weird version of the V-trigger almost.
I think we might see that spot.
I think it's gonna be a great match anyway. I don't like Kenny Omega as much as everybody does, but I think him and Christian Cage just have that magic.
Oh, incredible chemistry.
So it's really
incredible chemistry. But Kenny Omega for the win.
That's fair. And dude, we're going to have so much to talk about next week on this. I'm going to take copious notes, but I'm going to watch this twice. And then we'll be talking about it. Guys, if you want to get to us to talk about it.
Like me, you're going to watch it drunk and you're going to watch it sober.
You absolutely have to. So yeah, again, nerdtoknowmedia@gmail.com. We will be setting up an inbox for this show at some point when I get around to it. And of course, you can join us on social media. Just go to thewrestlingrewind.com and you'll be able to find everything. Or you can just listen and not get your voice heard. But we want to hear from you because that's what we want to do. Martin, anything you want to plug before we get out of here?
Yes, I am currently doing a program called Wimp to Warrior. It's 5 days a week. We get up at 6 a.m. and we get trained in various MMA styles of fighting.
Right.
And on the 19th of December, I have an MMA fight in a big old cage.
Holy hell.
Now, that's not what I'm promoting. What I'm promoting is that this week I found out that we actually get entrance music. So as a wrestling fan, I was buzzing about this. So I have decided on Metallica's For Whom the Bell Tolls.
Very nice.
So this week I am promoting For Whom the Bell Tolls. Go and put headphones on and listen to it really loud.
Awesome. And obviously do keep us up to date with how that's going. That's amazing, dude. I was not expecting that at all, but that's awesome. Yeah, guys. Yes.
And also the barracks, the army barracks in Crossmaglen is being dismantled. So that's awesome. That's been there for 40 years. Nobody has ever wanted it, and now it's been taken down, and we couldn't be happier. Auf Wiedersehen to Crossmaglen.
There we go. Guys, I will just plug Nerd to Know Media, nerdtoknowmedia@gmail.com, #save Dave, send Dave comments. Nice comments, be nice to Dave. And of
Dave's
course,
sound.
Dave is sound. But again, thank you for listening to us. He will be back eventually. Don't know when, but eventually. And again, thanks for listening to The Only Wrestling Show, hosted by wrestling fans who do not hate wrestling. And we'll be back next week here on Phoenix 92.5 FM. And of course, on the True Penny channel. Bye, guys.
Thank you for listening to a Nerd to Know Media production.